Your lawn is under enough stress already in the middle of summer. The last thing you want to do is to feed it the wrong fertilizer. Today, I'll show you exactly what to look for on the bag, what ingredients to avoid, and how to keep your lawn looking great until fall. Instead of pushing a ton of new top growth, we want to make sure that our lawns are staying healthy, keeping their root system strong, and make it into fall looking good. When choosing a fertilizer in the summer, the first thing I look at is not the brand, but it's the nitrogen. All forms of nitrogen are not created equal. When you're trying to fertilize your lawn in the middle of summer, it's very important that you choose a bag of fertilizer where the nitrogen is either slow release, controlled release, or some sort of stabilization is added to it. This is going to help that nitrogen not volatilize into the air. It's going to reduce the chance of it leaching down into the soil past the root zone where the grass can actually use it. It will also make sure that the grass is being fed at a slow, consistent rate. So you don't get a ton of fast shoot growth that's going to pull nutrients away from its root system and focus everything on new blade growth. In the middle of the heat and the dryness of summer, you really want to focus on not just nitrogen, but potassium. Potassium is a great nutrient. It's one of the primary nutrients for your grass plant. And what it's going to do is it's going to strengthen the cell walls of your plant. So it's going to make it more resistant to heat stress, drought stress, and any kind of other outside stressors that might affect the health of the grass plant. It's also going to be very important for strong root growth. So potassium is definitely what you want during the heat and the dryness of summer. So don't just go out there and buy yourself a bag of straight nitrogen. Make sure that you are getting something that's got a little bit of potassium in it as well. And remember, potassium is that last number on a fertilizer bag. The first one is going to be your nitrogen. The middle one is your phosphorus. The last one is your potassium. So make sure there is some potassium inside of any fertilizer that you are purchasing for the middle of summer. The main reason why a lot of people like to choose a quick release nitrogen source is because it gives them that nice deep dark green color that they love to see in their grass. But they're really hurting their grass plant when they're doing this because they are forcing all those nutrients up to the shoots and pulling them away from where they're really needed in creating good, strong root systems. So if you're looking for that nice, deep, dark green color, then make sure you choose a fertilizer that's got either iron inside of it, or if you're worried about staining issues on concrete surfaces, then choose one that's got manganese inside of it. Both of these nutrients are going to cause that deep, dark green color in your grass without taking nutrients away from the roots and forcing a lot of shoot growth. Now, what about organics versus slow release, controlled release, stabilizers? What does all that mean, and what are you looking for? Well, organics and slow release nitrogen sources are just very long, complex molecules of nitrogen, and it takes microorganisms in your soil to break these things down so that the grass plant can use what's left over after the nitrogen is broken down through this process. Okay, so these fertilizers, by their very nature, are going to be slow release because it takes time for those microorganisms to break this nitrogen down. The biggest things that are going to affect the release time on these is going to be heat and moisture. The hotter and wetter it is, the more activity is going on in your soil, and the quicker those nitrogen sources will be broken down. Now, for your controlled release products, these are nitrogen sources that are coated in some sort of material. A lot of times this is either a polymer or sulfur. What happens with them is that these coatings are not completely solid. They're slightly porous, so water can get through the poly or through the sulfur, and it will start to break down the nitrogen inside of that prill. And then the nitrogen will be released at a stable rate into the soil that the grass plant can use. These are very reliable sources of release. They will very consistently release nitrogen over time and are great options if you're looking to have a nitrogen source that is slowly released. These also are greatly affected by soil moisture and temperature. If you do not have irrigation and you don't plan on getting a lot of rainfall, then a polycoat nitrogen source will not break down very well because it really needs moisture to get into that poly and break down that nitrogen. This is also why if you've got a very high percentage of polycoat inside the bag and you're going through a drought period with no irrigation, then it may look like your nitrogen source is not really doing anything at all. Your grass will kind of just stunt itself out. Polycoats and sulfur are best used when you have irrigation or you know that you're going to get somewhat consistent rainfall throughout the year. For stabilized nitrogen sources, these are bags of fertilizer that have other compounds added to them that are stopping the nitrogen from volatilizing and moving into the air as a gas. And also, they are allowing the nitrogen to bond to soil particles so that it won't leach as quickly down through the soil if you're getting a lot of rainfall. Stabilized sources of nitrogen are great options if you've got very sandy soil and are worried about leaching, or if you don't have irrigation and you are worried about a lot of that nitrogen that you're putting down turning into a gas and being released into the air. As far as release times on these three options, well, your organic and slow release sources of nitrogen are going to be about 6 to 12 plus weeks, depending on the environment or the percentage of organics or slow release inside the bag. You are going to get anywhere in that window of 6 to 12 weeks. If you've got a very high percentage of slow release nitrogen inside of a bag and the environment is right, you could also get anywhere north of that 12-week feed up to 18 to 20 weeks possibly. For controlled release bags of nitrogen, such as polycoats or sulfur coats, you will get anywhere from about 6 to 18 weeks of feed out of those bags. It really depends on the thickness of the coating and also, of course, the environmental factors. There are a lot of bags out there that have 45, 90, 120-day polycoats. And the only difference in those coatings is just the thickness of the layer of polymer. So the thicker the polymer, like on a 120-day release, that is going to give you a much longer feed than a thinner coating, such as a 45-day release. And the stabilized nitrogen sources, that nitrogen is just going to release like normal uncoated urea. The only thing really slowing it down is the extra compounds that are stopping the leaching and stopping the volatilization. So depending on the percentage of the stabilization inside the bag, you may get anywhere from a week for a very low percentage, which is basically just uncoated urea, or all the way up to 8, maybe 10 weeks of feed out of those bags, depending on the percentage of those compounds inside the bag. And then, of course, with everything, it very greatly depends on the environmental factors that you have going on, how hot and how dry or how wet it may be. Here are a few great products that I have used in the past and would highly recommend. If you're looking for organics, then I would look for anything made by Sustain. They are a great organic manufacturer and have a lot of great options out there for some high quality, slow release fertilizers, which are going to feed your lawn very efficiently and increase your soil health and feed your lawn at a nice constant rate. If you're looking for a little bit less expensive option of an organic fertilizer, then Green Edge is a great option. This one is a lot like Milorganite, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen on the store shelves, except it is seaweed or kelp based and will not have the heavy metals that Milorganite contains. If you are not looking for organics and just want a good, high quality synthetic fertilizer, then anything by Lesco is fantastic. There's a lot of different options out there to meet any one of your needs. Also, Scott's does have quite a few good fertilizer blends. If you're going to go with Scott's, just make sure you're looking at that label. Purchase something that has a poly coat on it or another form of controlled or slow release inside the bag to make sure that nitrogen is not being all released right away when you put it down. With any of these products, make sure you are paying attention to that label. This is where it's going to have all the information that you need to make sure you're making the correct purchase to get high quality fertilizer down on your lawn. I always recommend going to garden stores or landscape shops instead of the big box stores because you are going to get a bigger bang for your buck. Now, the bags might be cheaper sometimes at the Home Depots, Lowe's, or Menards, but you're getting a much smaller bag. So you really want to pay attention to the price per pound on these fertilizer bags instead of the bag itself. Also, pay attention to the application rates. If you're going to go the organic route, organics have a very high application rate. If you go out and get yourself a bag of Sustain or Green Edge or Milorganite, that bag is going to do a lot fewer square feet than a bag of synthetic fertilizer will. Also, make sure you're doing the math and figuring out what your price per 1,000 square feet is. What you want to do is take the total cost of the bag, divide that by how many pounds are in the bag, and then times that number by how many pounds are going down over 1,000 square feet. So a lot of fertilizers are going to be put down at 4 pounds per 1,000. So this bag here, I'm going to take the cost of the bag, divide that by the pounds inside the bag, and times that number by 4. And that is giving me my cost per 1,000 square feet on this bag of fertilizer. What products do you want to avoid? Well, after everything I've said, you probably can guess what you want to avoid in the heat of the summer is any kind of quick release nitrogen. Putting these products down on your lawn during the heat of summer is like if you were going to run a marathon and instead of giving you glasses of water as you pass by stations, they're handing you energy drinks. This may give you a boost of energy to make it through the next leg of the race, but in the long term, this will not help you sustain your energy and help you make it through the race as efficiently and as healthy as you possibly can. So just like not drinking an energy drink to make it through a marathon, don't feed your grass an energy drink to make it through the marathon that is the growing season. I would love to hear from you about what fertilizers you're choosing this year. And remember, if you've got any issues going on your lawn, I have opened up the post section of this channel where you can submit pictures and I can take a look and try to help you figure out what's going on. Also, I do have my members page. So every month I will take your comments about what's going on in your lawn if you're having any issues and make a custom video answering your exact questions and giving you solutions to your problems. As always, remember, taking care of your lawn is not about following every internet trend or finding a magic pill. It's about thinking of what your grass actually needs and making the right choices for the long-term health of your grass plants. If you are looking for more lawn care tips, this is Tommy's Turf Talks. I'm pulling for you.